So I created a save file from scratch about 2 months ago, and my favorite part was creating the lore and the backstory behind my Sims. What's different about this save is that it's created with a little more intention. I am normally a bit disorganized when playing, so this save file really helped me to be a bit more focused and intentional with my stories and my game in general. Now we're currently in Brindleton Bay because this is where my current Sims live. I normally don't play in Brindleton Bay, which is a shame because it's incredibly beautiful. I used to play here a little bit more in my earlier Sims days, but I never really appreciated the world for what it is. This video is a little more laid back from what you might be used to seeing in a Let's Play or a showcase video. It's more so like me telling you a story while a montage of moments play on the screen. So if you will allow me, let me tell you this story. I'm currently playing with college sweethearts, meet Maddox and Devon. Now Maddox and Devon are an interesting pair. They're similar aesthetically speaking, yet different personality-wise. Devon is not typically who Maddox would go for, and the opposite is true for Devon. I wanted them to have this dynamic about them that's easy yet difficult. You know, just because they share certain characteristics, it doesn't mean that they would automatically be compatible. And that's what I noticed when I started playing with them. They had lots of awkward encounters, lots of relationship losses, and it was quite annoying, honestly, but I allowed it. Another thing I did was allow them to feel every emotion. If someone woke up tense, I allowed them to explore that emotion. If they got angry, I allowed them to feel that. Even the negative emotions towards each other, I allowed it. And for me, that's big because I normally don't like when my Sims feel too negatively. But again, this save file is teaching me to kind of let things flow and to not always feel the need to play with perfection. And what you guys will be seeing is kind of the end product or the result of about 2 months of legwork to make them compatible enough to accept each other's differences. Because nobody really speaks on how hard it is for a love bug and a romantically reserved sim to be partners, and I found that out the hard way. Now let's head into cast where we can learn a little more about these two. So we're in cast with Maddox now. She has the soulmate aspiration, she's a love bug, a bookworm, and a foodie. As for her hobbies, she enjoys baking, cooking, fitness, gardening, photography, and wellness. Believe it or not, I didn't give her a lot of these hobbies. She kind of discovered them for herself in-game, which I really enjoyed seeing. And we're going to see a few of them in action a little later on. I didn't have a particular look for Maddox in my mind, but I wanted her to have a certain brightness about her. A brightness that showed joy. As far as her outfits, I wanted her to be mainly into cardigans and just neutral toned colors in general. Now onto Devon. He has the painter extraordinaire aspiration. He's creative, romantically reserved, and a perfectionist. And his extra trait is that he is a foodie. A few of his hobbies include cooking, fitness, handiness, painting, photography, and wellness. Again, I didn't give him a lot of these hobbies, and some he discovered for himself in-game. As far as Devon's look, I pictured him being a little somber, a little serious looking, almost like he has resting bee face, you know. And I really wanted to use the hair that we got in the last update. As far as his outfits, he's similar to Maddox in that he tends to go for more neutral tone colors, nothing too bright or nothing too dark. And last but not least, we have Spooky the cat. Spooky was created by Pug Owned Plays, who creates amazing pets on the gallery. Spooky is aloof, yet she is friendly, and she's also clever. I felt as if Maddox and Devon are cat persons for sure. So we're gonna head into game now, but I just wanted to pause to show you all this amazing loading screen by Subi Sims. I feel like the loading screen really brings together the creative aesthetic of this current household. And of course, the Plum Bob recolor by Pinkish World. So it's currently autumn in my game, and as you can see, Maddox loves autumn. It's her favorite season. Devon, however, doesn't so much. He doesn't care for the season or the leaves or raking them, but if Maddox loves it, he'll put up with it. For their home, I wanted it to have a vintage yet modern look to it. The backstory behind their house is that it once belonged to Devon's grandmother. Before she passed away, she wanted Devon to have the house, and this caused some drama with Devon and his parents, but we'll talk a little more about that later on. Anyway, Devon decided to keep some vintage aspects to the house, but he modernized it a little. As far as their jobs, Maddox currently works at a vintage bookstore and library. I initially was going to place her in the writer career, but I just couldn't. It felt a little passive, and I feel like Maddox is a little more active when it comes to her love for books. So working at this bookstore felt like a great fit for her. She's outgoing, she loves to read, and she graduated with a degree in language and literature from the University of Bristol. So she loves being around people who love reading, and it's an overall win for her. She also enjoys working alongside Donna, who is her boss and the owner of the bookstore. Now, in my mind, Donna comes from a wealthy family, but she's kind of the black sheep. While her siblings spend their money on stocks and yachts, Donna decided that she was going to build this bookstore for book lovers. Kids also love Maddox. They love her youthful energy, she's kind, and she gives the absolute best movie book recommendations. She'd be like, "Have you seen the new Super Kids movie? Then you're definitely gonna love this book." She's overall just a great worker who loves her job very much. I found this quote on my personal Tumblr that reminds me of Maddox, and it said, "She moves among the books as if they're friends," and I couldn't put it any better. So Devon's day looks a little different. He works from home as a freelance digital artist, and he sells his paintings to collectors on the side. He also got his degree from the University of Bristol in art history, but he wasn't supposed to. You see, his parents had agreed to pay his way through college only if he got a degree in something that made him money, something like biology or computer engineering. So after his first semester, when his parents found out that he had switched to art, they were livid. They cut off his money. They said how disappointed they were in him. They never supported his dreams to be an artist. They always said it was just a silly hobby. Even when he was younger, they never allowed him to join art classes. They were super restrictive. And that's what eventually led to Devon going no contact with his parents. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was one that he had to make. So Maddox has never met his parents, and he was super insecure about it when they had just started off dating. He knew the meet the parents stage was super important, but he was also relieved that she wouldn't have to put up with their intrusive questions and their disapproving looks. Because honestly, Maddox doesn't make that much money either in her career. So he kind of was happy or relieved to shield her from his parents. He also keeps in touch with his former art mentor, Mr. Coe, who he met when he did an internship in Windenburg after he graduated. And Mr. Coe has been sort of a parental figure for him after he went no contact with his parents. Mr. Coe understood the situation, and he wanted to try to help Devon as best as he could. He knew Devon was talented, and he didn't want Devon's talent to go to waste. So he would often invite Devon to have dinner with his family, or to stay with them for the holidays. He would also stay back to give Devon advice on his work and to help him network with other artists. He even invited Maddox down to stay with them a few times because while Devon was doing his internship in Windenburg, Maddox was doing her own internship in San Myshuno at a publishing company. Mr. Coe knew how important it was for Devon to have as much people as he could in his corner. Even when Maddox and Devon had decided to take a break from their relationship, it was Mr. Coe who offered a listening ear, and he spoke with both Devon and Maddox, and Devon appreciated this because he never really had anyone who looked out for him like that, besides his grandmother, but she was no longer there. While they don't make the most money or have the most prestigious careers, I feel like there's a certain security that they still are able to maintain within themselves. They don't need to have it all together. They're still figuring everything out. It's only been 3 years since they graduated college and did their separate things and then came back to Brindleton Bay. So there's still lots of room to grow, room to make a mistake or two, and just to learn more about themselves and each other. I was thinking about quotes that reminded me of this couple, and my favorite one from Ernest Hemingway came to mind, where he said, "We ate well and cheaply, and drank well and cheaply, and slept well and warmed together, and loved each other." And this reminds me so much of Maddox and Devon because they don't need a lot to enjoy each other's company or to be happy. They're moving at their own pace and taking things one day at a time. That's the kind of relationship I wanted them to have, a relationship where they're not trying to have these big moments. In this save, I also wanted my Sims to explore more activities, but especially their hobbies. I think sometimes we don't realize how important Sims' hobbies are, and we may want them to do what we want them to do, but I wanted to challenge that. Like I said earlier, a lot of the hobbies Maddox had, I didn't give her, and gardening was one of them, but she gradually began to enjoy it. And when the game asked me if Maddox likes gardening now, I was like, absolutely. That wasn't on my bingo card for her, but I accepted it. So I often let her go to the community garden where she can plant and just talk with other plant lovers about their gardens and about her garden, and they can just share tips, and where she can just connect with other Sims who might be older than her or younger than her. They can just learn from each other. Sometimes I'll even let Devon go with her to the community garden. And while he's not a fan of gardening, they also have a little painting and reading corner, which is so cute. And the ambiance helps him to get inspired. Just having him spend time with her there is super special to Maddox. Speaking of spending time, I also wanted them to spend time doing things outside of their immediate hobbies. And I didn't realize how much the little things kind of add to gameplay. And I know the game doesn't give us much activities for our Sims to do, so we kind of have to get creative. So that's what I did. The simple things became a part of their story. Like I said earlier, this is a couple who is simply enjoying their time as young adults and enjoying the time that they have together with each other. Like marriage and kids, those may come. I'm still deciding. But I really didn't want them to be so focused on what's next, but on what currently is, for them to enjoy the moment. And I think that the game does an okay job with allowing moments, but a lot of it takes having an imagination. I think spending time together is also important now, because there once was a time where they weren't together. I said earlier that Devon was in Windenburg for his internship and Maddox was in San Myshuno for hers. And they were in completely different worlds, literally. They wanted to make it work, but it was time and space that made things hard. And they agreed that though they loved each other, it may be best for them to take a break. And during that break, they did start seeing other people. They found people who they were easily compatible with. But that was the thing. Those relationships, they weren't easy. They weren't organic. And both Maddox and Devon still had feelings for each other. And they couldn't love their new partners organically. So when they found their way back to each other, it felt organic. It felt right. Even though it wasn't easy, it was definitely worth it. They wanted to be together. They wanted to be in each other's life. They wanted to do life together, whatever that meant. They were willing. I want to talk about Devon for a while. One thing I love about him is how introspective he is. He doesn't take any decision he makes lightly. He always thinks stuff through. When he decided to go no contact with his parents, that wasn't an easy decision. He didn't make it on the fly. He had to make that decision considering everything he went through with them over the course of time, with, how he was treated since he was younger and just all of that. Even more so, Devon is blessed to have a partner who gives him space to be himself and space to be introspective. One thing I loved watching was how Maddox brought out a different side of Devon, and she loved him in a slow and steady way that made him comfortable and made him want to be vulnerable and want to be lovable. Another thing I really loved watching were those moments between Devon and Maddox's family. Family has always been something Maddox took seriously, and that was something that her and Devon couldn't see eye to eye on initially. They had to work through the question on how important family was, but thankfully they did. So now every Sunday, they go to Maddox's family's house for dinner, and he gets to learn more about her family, and they get to learn more about him. But the good thing is that they like Devon already. They know that he loves her. They can see how good he is for her. And in the same way, Devon enjoys spending time with her family almost as much as she does. And that's one thing she loves about him. For Devon, he never really had that, but he enjoys being in an environment so full of love and full of support. But it wasn't easy at first because it reminded him of what he didn't have. But over time, he felt more secured about it, and he was willing to see the glass half full. But he's honestly just grateful that he gets to have this extended family experience. This family who welcomes him with open arms. It's inspiring to be around people who genuinely love and support each other. This is something he used to see on TV. Now he gets to see and experience it in real time. What I appreciate the most about this household is seeing growth with both of them. I'm such a believer that the right person will make you want to do more things and want to go on more adventures and make you more inspired. And I remember having to take a break from this couple because I didn't want to rush their story. So I'm happy to be continuing their story now. I want to thank you guys for listening to me yap about my current household. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.